Welcome to another episode of Grief Talk. Everything you want to know about grief and more. I'm your host, Vaughn Solis. As an author, life transformation coach, online instructor, and bereaved mom since 2005, I'll be bringing you great content that is informative, inspiring, and practical. Whether you have suffered a loss or other adversity, stay tuned and tapped in as I cover a variety of topics to help you get where you want to go on your journey to heal and grow. Today's guest is Brenda Rachel. As a messenger of hope for the angels and true humanitarian, through her work as a music composer, inspirational quote writer, and author, Brenda Rachel shares angelic messages of peace, hope, joy, and love with others to promote global peace and unconditional love for all humanity. As an angel healing practitioner, Brenda Rachel also helps clients find direction for their life by channeling messages from their angels and shows others how they can invoke the power of the angels themselves to continually transform their life. I'm really excited for my next guest, and I just really wanted to welcome Brenda Rachel to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So, you will note from the introduction that Brenda is an angel healing practitioner. She is an inspirational quote writer. She is an author and a messenger of hope for the angels. And I'm so excited to have you on the show, Brenda, because there's a lot we're going to talk about in this episode, and all of what you do is so important to the healing of this world, to the healing of people who are grieving any number of losses, for the people who feel confused and lost and just need a little bit of direction. And so on that note, looking at the work that you do, and you are a humanitarian, and your website is beautiful, and it's filled with quotes and inspirational messages and articles and just so many, interesting ideas and the sharing of wisdom that people can gain an awful lot by visiting your website. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But for now, I also wanted to bring it back down to the physical a little bit because, we do live in these physical bodies. And Brenda Rachel and I do know each other, and we've had many, many, many conversations to do with metaphysical subjects, consciousness-raising topics, and so many other things. And so we aren't going to have time to dive into all of that today. You can bet that we're going to be offering some fantastic one-on-one conversations. So for today, this is more of an introduction to challenges we have. And we're going to get into Brenda Rachel's story about disability, bringing it right back to this rather heavy human body that we have to live in and live with in this otherwise could be beautiful world. And so what Brenda and I are going to be talking about today is a couple of the disabilities that really challenged her and brought her into this angelic world, this spiritual world, where I can attest that it's a much easier place to live, but ultimately we have to learn how to balance it with being in our physical bodies and in a physical environment. So on that note, Brenda, I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about, we're going to get into your stories in the next question, but just a little bit about who you are and what you're doing right now. I will be getting into how you got to the work, but for now, I just want to know who you are and what you're offering the world.
Okay, thank you so much, Vaughn. First and foremost, I'm a messenger of hope for the angels. And without doing the angels' work, none of the gifts that I've been given would have been brought to me so that I could share them with the rest of the world. And so that's one part. I'm also an angel healing practitioner. So I do angel readings for people, and they can reach me through my website about that. The other thing I do is I have now come to a more defined purpose for my angelically inspired purpose work, which is wanting to really bring our planet to a place of healing through caring, consideration, compassion, kindness, and respect. And I think those five modes of being with each other can make an absolute change to how we relate to each other at any given time. My hope is, and I'm not sure I'm going to see it during my lifetime, but my hope is to see a peaceful planet without any divisiveness. And so that's what I'm striving for. And that would be sort of my bigger purpose right now.
So that's amazing. That I mean, that is a lofty purpose, and it's wonderful. And you and I have had conversations before about whether or not we're going to achieve what we're on this planet to achieve, all centered around peace and love and kindness and respect and compassion and healing and so on. So, taking it back to the physical, let's start maybe not right at the beginning, but where you wanted to address a couple of the disabilities. I know you've been through several disabilities and even near loss of life. And so, if you could explain to our audience those disabilities, I think you maybe we're going to focus on a couple of them that really impacted you. It brought you to your purpose work, your angelic work, and literally, I would wager to say today are still shaping the messages that number one are channeled to you from the angels, and just live within your soul. So wherever you want to start with that, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so I'll just start with the disability that completely changed my awareness of the angel's presence in my life, which was in 2004, in April of 2004. And I went to step out of bed and put my feet on the floor, and searing pain went through both feet from heels to just underneath the toes. It was discovered that I have had bilateral plantar fasciitis in both feet. So I was basically crawling around my place on my hands and knees, or hobbling and hopping between one foot and the other to get around for about 5 months. Very, very, very painful. As I was laying on the couch sobbing one day, I looked out my window and I just looked up at the sky and I asked the angels, what is it that you want me to learn from this experience? How do I serve you? And what messages do you want me to bring to others? And within minutes, and without any doubt at all, I mean, it was within minutes, all of a sudden, a song with both music and lyrics started to be channeled to me through my consciousness. And so that evolved into an EP of 6 songs called In This Moment, which I co-produced and co-arranged with my musician friend. And it got published and put out on iTunes and Amazon and iTunes, and but many years later. So that was in 2004 to 2005, and it wasn't until 2014, 15 that the music actually got published, and that's another story. But anyway, so this is where I first got involved with the angels consciously channeling their messages to me through song. And so the second one was in 2014, 2015, and I became very debilitated with serious chronic back pain. And one day I went to get up from my desk at work and my back seized up in a spasm, and I couldn't bend down to pick my purse up or really straighten up from my chair. So I got my things together and went down to my HR department and said I had to leave the office because my back was in serious, serious problems. So I ended up going to a spinal decompression clinic for 3 months to have spinal decompression treatments on my back. So I lay on a bed and have the energy flow through the bed onto through my back. And then I attended a back rehab clinic for 5 months where I had to learn really how to build my body up, one vertebrae at a time. So anyway, and I did that. Through this time, I was very, very depressed because the pain was very severe, and I'd had a lot of pain up to this point in my life, and I was getting really my tolerance for dealing with another onslaught of something happening to me out of the blue was getting very frustrating. So I was laying on the bed, and it was my final decompression treatment before I was going to start the back rehab clinic. And I had said to the angels before I left home that if there's something you want me to do, that I'm here on your messenger. But if there's not something you want me to do, then please take me home because I'm ready to go. Enough is enough. I've had it. I'm done with the pain, and I just want to leave this world. But I won't harm myself in any way to do that. So as I was laying on the bed, my mom came to me, who was a Spanish concert pianist, and she whispered in my ear, Brenny, you have to get your music on iTunes. And then she was gone. And that was it. And I laid there, and I knew the angels had sent her to me. I'd had many, many communications with Mom over the years, and I still have the odd one with her. So I was very aware. And her calling me Brenny was my nickname. She always called me when I was growing up. So also, I definitely knew it was her. Anyway, I laid there and I said, iTunes. I didn't know what iTunes was. I had heard of them, but I had no idea. So I came home from my final spinal decompression treatment. And as soon as I was able, I Googled on the computer what iTunes was. And then I had to discover how to publish music, which the angels guided me through that whole process. And I was able to get my EP. So I that was October the 29th, 2014. Within about a month, the music was out there for the world to receive. And I left it that way. So anyway, and I'll just go back to with my feet issue. So how the songs then came to be evolved into an EP. I was attending a Unity church at that time and met the music director, and he had a recording studio in his home. And I told him what I wanted. I had these songs all compiled. By that time, that was in 2004 to 2006. The Angels gave me 22 songs, but the EP is 6 songs because it's a very expensive process to create an album. And so I was only able to do 6 of the songs, and which was fine. It was great. So anyway, we worked together, he and I, and built each song bar by bar, choosing the genre of music and the instrumentation. And I would be laying on his sofa in his recording studio, and he was in his chair at his music keyboard that had all of these variations of musical instruments. And my dog was laying with me on the floor. So she was always accompanying me to his place. So that's how the music EP came about. That I was able to co-arrange and co-produce, and I learned a lot about music production.
Did the music would you say that the angels gave you this music and you could hear the music in your head first, and then you would tell the technician what instruments to put together and basically compose the whole entire thing by what you were hearing, the music you were hearing in your head?
Yes, I told him exactly the type of genre that they wanted it in. In other words, one is classical, one is African, one is Native American or Indigenous, and one is symphonic, and the other one is kind of a poppy rock. And
it kind of reminds me, if you look years later and you look back to the arranging of that kind of music, and like angels of the music. And then it's like bringing the world together, unity, the symphony of it all. And as the years have gone by, which we'll talk about a little bit, you've grown more and more and more into your humanitarianness. And by that I just mean we all have to grow into that. The work associated with that, and your true purpose. So looking back at that very, very early time in the early 2000s, probably not even really knowing then to the extent you do today what that music represented. It, to me, hearing it from the outside, it's so clear to me. It's a representative of your overall message of unity for humanity. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because today I was talking to the angels and I was asking them to bring me wisdom and for me to be a light in this conversation and to bring wisdom. And what did they want me to share with it? And so they were saying to me, use the analogy, because I love analogies for all of the writing that I do, is take a symphony, and I also love music. So take a symphony and you look at every single instrument that's in that symphony in its own compartmentalized area on the stage. And each one is different, yet together they make a symphony. And so that's what they were saying to me. Look at that and transfer that analogy and that picture in your mind to the audience and have them without one, there couldn't be without all of them, there wouldn't be a symphony. And with each of them together, playing their own notes on their own instruments, the way that it comes with the sound, that is what the world is made up of. It's made up of all of these variations of people who have their own sounds, their own unique tone, and without all of us, we wouldn't be making up the world. So in other words, we make up the world. All of us in our own unique way, playing our own unique song. We are creating the symphony of serenity on this planet, if we so choose. And this is why I'm so committed in my work to really have people understand the oneness of the all. So each one of us creates the all, and all of us create the oneness. So, yeah.
That's a really beautiful analogy, and I've actually read years ago that I want to do this justice, but that the earth vibrates and actually almost has a musical tone to it. And there is some writings on that. And I mean, I haven't explored that a lot, but again, it's so serendipitous that, we're talking about the music, the symphony. The earth has its own music, is its own form of music. And I really, really love that. And, you were saying your mom was a concert pianist anyway, so I love how that's coming through too, all those connections. But I think the main point I want to reiterate here to the audience listening is that on this other level that Brenda works and that I work, where we can enjoy conversations at length about vibration and energy and all of this consciousness raising stuff, this is the sort of the bones of it, is to understand at the very human level, we are all here for a purpose and for interconnectedness. And some of the stuff that happens on the planet is really, really bad, both on a personal level and on a mass level. And finding our role within that, particularly, and we're going to get talking about this in a little bit, but particularly when you've committed your life to light work, or in simple terms, you just want to be a really good person, and you really are a good person, and you're loving and caring, compassionate as you can be person. It can be a little bit challenging to stay true to that in the darkness, which is actually a beautiful segue into my third question for you, and that is that. So if I'm reiterating this right back to you. if I'm reiterating this back to you the right way, you're in excruciating pain in the early 2000s. And I know you've gone through other stuff before then, but we're just sort of focusing on this, a time frame, the 2000s. So you make a commitment to the angels, and to sort of paraphrase, say, what do you want me to do? And then they show you what to do, but you're still in excruciating pain, maybe on and off, maybe emotionally and mentally in pain, physically for sure, hampered, limited, disabled. So I have a couple of questions. And so the first one is, on a personal level, what did it take for you to stay committed to that purpose work, to that servitude to the angels, if you will, when you didn't even know how it was going to turn out? And I mean, none of us even still know today. And then, secondly, tapped into that would be, even though we're not giving advice to anybody, we're just inspiring people. And through your messages, how do you inspire? What would be the sort of one or two main things that you would sort of encourage people to think about, who are just trying to get on the path to wellness or change their consciousness, but to stay true to the light, as opposed to fall prey to the darkness, the pain, the agony, the depression, all of those things that, can tear us down so quickly?
Well, I think for myself, I had also been studying. I was in a religion called Science of Mind, and so for me, and I was studying to become a minister, and so I had learned by this point with my feet that my thoughts created my reality. And so for me, accountability and understanding that this was my creation, and also accepting it, that every thought that I put out into the universe created my reality. Nobody else created it. That was mine. And so that was that part of it. And then the other thing was then accepting that I was in charge of this. So there was nobody to blame for my situation and for anything that had happened to me up to this point. I was the one that had entirely orchestrated all the happenings in my life to this point, and that everything happened in the divine right time. And so I told that, for me, that was what helped me. Also, what helped me was every word the angels gave me. I was absolutely overwhelmed with a sense of almost disbelief at the love that they had for me, with the beautiful words that they were gifting me. And so I was so incredibly happy that I could do something with their songs eventually that they gave to me. And when the album was done and I heard the songs, it was like I just wanted to sob with just such joy that I'd been blessed with them gifting me this. And then the other part that I didn't go into, after the music EP on December 2nd, 2014 was put out there, then the same day they started channeling quotes to me. And so between January or December 2015 and April 2015, my book of inspirational and spiritual quotes was born, and it was published in September of 2015. So that was another gift that they gave me, and each one of those quotes through my back disability was something that just really gave me the incentive and sort of the vitamin B shot, as I should say, vitamin A, vitamin angels.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
to keep going, because it was like, oh, you're not giving up on me. Because a lot of the time I had given up on myself and lost hope in myself, that my body was ever going to completely heal. And when things kept coming out of the blue, and it was something else that I had to deal with. And I didn't really know how to deal with it. It was like, even though I was going to medical professionals and other people, specialists and things like that, it was still, I didn't know how to deal with it. So once I really grasped and identified from a soul level that I created this, this is my reality on this planet at this time, and everything is happening for the right time, for in the divine right time. And even though it doesn't feel like it, and even though you can't see a way out of the trees, there will be something shown to you that is greater than you are even aware of. And that also has happened to me.
Without, we're not telling again people what to do, but inspiring people. So when you say, for anybody that's in the midst of like immense tragedy or, hardship, hopelessness, just frustration, boredom, whatever it is that makes them very, very, kind of fed up with the physical, the physicality of everything. And I've been there. I've had my tragedy. I've had my frustrations. I've had to dig really deep to keep going, which is, and of course, the work I do in bereavement support. But in this conversation today, and for the audience members listening or watching, how would you inspire them if they don't know what to tap into? I don't know if I could answer this question, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. I'm just trying to brainstorm. How could we inspire people? And specifically, what would you say to that if they're just actually watching this and feeling so lost and hopeless and like, yeah, well, you can do it. It's easy for you, but I can't. Is there one or two things that you could suggest that they do to try and figure this out for themselves?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is if they do or if they don't believe in angels, ask the angels for help, because the angels are always present, and they don't segregate. They don't segregate religion, cultures, you know, types of.
Yeah, I do know. I do know.
Okay, they are all inclusive, and it's kind of like going to an all inclusive resort. They will help anybody with any kind of banquet food that they like, except that it's with love that they're offering, and it's with assistance, and they will intervene. The angels will always, always, always intervene when they are asked for help. If if it's not that person's time to go, they will always intervene. And a person does not need to ask for help for them to wrap them in their wings of love and safety and comfort. But if the person can become conscious that their angels are with them and tap into that and start asking them for help, then it becomes a more connected spiritual experience. And for me, it was just overwhelming. I mean, I had been brought up in a Christian home and was not aware of the angels' presence in my life until 2004. So from 1953, from my birth till 2004, I did not know. And yet there are many times that angels intervened in my life because it wasn't my time to leave this planet. Now, I didn't know anything about them consciously. I didn't ask them for help. So I'm just saying to you people out there, ask your angels for help. They're walking beside you every day, all the way through thick and thin. The other thing I would say is, if there's anything that brings them some sense of relief in so far as messages that they read, whether it's something positive in a book, or it's something positive online, or it's something positive that they had a friend send them a nice card that said something to them very, very uplifting. Look for something uplifting. Watch a video. If you love animals, if you love nature, if you love mountains, if you love glaciers, if you love trees, if you love streams, I love all those things. So look on the internet or wherever you go to just take yourself out of yourself, because we really can be in those moments absolutely in the bottom of the bottomless bottomless pit of despair with no rungs on the wall to climb ourselves out of it. And I've been there, and I have absolutely 100% know that feeling. So I did not know these things at that time and did not do these things at that time. Had I done these things, I don't know, maybe my life story might have been different. But I'm just saying, for you out there, if there's something that brings you out of yourself, because it's our constant rotating dialogue that we have in our mind that keeps going around and around and around and around, playing the same tapes, that gets us. It's kind of like a old 33 record on a record player, and the needle gets stuck in the groove and it keeps playing that same groove over and over and over again, and you can't get out of it. Yet there's a whole other record there to play of listening to beautiful songs. So that's one, for sure, one thing that I would say. The two things
Yeah.
is ask the angels for help and find something that takes you out of yourself.
That's such great, great advice and wisdom and sharing. And I think most of us have all been to, I'm not necessarily the depths of despair as a bereaved mother. I have for sure. And I think it takes more than just one or two short conversations on really digging deep to find that inner core that we can discipline ourselves to keep going, to keep committed, to trust, to learn about angels, to learn about things that are beyond the physical, and see more and be more, and all of these other things. And Brenda, you and I are going to have some more conversations for sure about this. But that's wonderful. Okay, so those are, again, amazing suggestions that you had for people digging themselves out of the depths. But I wanted to just ask you, would you agree that committing your life to the work of the angels was your greatest purpose on this planet?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that I was, wanted to just really, really emphasize is I have chosen to become a vocal messenger of hope for the angels. This is my absolute sort of whatever you want to put, like, as my job description. And I am, without a doubt, committed until the day I die to do the work that I came to understand that is my soul's purpose work,
Mm-hmm.
because my spirit is alive no matter what my body is going through. My spirit is alive doing this angelic work. The flip side, or not flip side, but the continuation of my growth in this became much more evident in 2017. And I was sitting with my family around the table, around my living room, just saying to them, we were talking about our goals for the year. This was in January. And it became very clear, and very quickly clear, so I had really no notice from the angels, that I was going to go into a bigger purpose, have a bigger purpose. And so this was going to now evolve into what became my YouTube channel, Humanity with Heart, and my website, Humanity with Heart. And so, which was all kind of evolved through my family and I discussing what I would call my work. Mm-hmm. Because they're talking about what did I want to do. And I said, well, I really, really want to have peace on the planet and have an unconditional love be the weaving thread that goes through the four corners of the world. And I'm not quite sure. So anyway, after not too long a discussion, but maybe about an hour or something, it was evolved into Humanity with Heart. And so I am now a messenger of angels, a messenger of hope for the angels, but has a more global purpose right now. And it doesn't mean that I don't put out quotes for them and on all kinds of subjects, but I am more committed in my psyche and consciousness to really, really wanting to see our world healed. And this is what a light worker's purpose is. And I understand that I am a light worker. I understand I chose to come here to be a light worker amidst all the darkness, which I'm sure is why I was ill and had so many disabilities, because it's fighting against the light current, and illness for me was a very dark place. I'm not suggesting that for any other person, but that was for me.
Well,
So
I actually think that I'm going to be the voice for the many, because I've been at my own work now since basically 2006. I lost my daughter to suicide in 2005. For the audience watching or listening, I know darkness. Every single person I've met bereaved, parents, other people bereaved, struggling with grief, sometimes for decades, they all have been challenged by this dark place. And that's why I'm saying this is not a one-off conversation that I have ever with our guest today, Brenda, Rachel, or anybody about there's a quick and easy fix to get out of darkness. In my view, there's not. But it's more the drive and the sometimes purpose we develop that helps keep us on the path. And it's on that note, I wanted to ask you, and you may or may not have an opinion about this, but it's just a question that came to me is, do you think that healing is made, I don't really want to say easier, but that we're more inclined to want to heal if we have a purpose?
oh, I 1000% agree with that.
Hmm.
Because absolutely. I think that um, because healing again is a very, it's a journey. And
Yeah.
so healing doesn't happen overnight. Well, I shouldn't say, I will clarify that. Healing for me did not happen overnight. There are some people that have had like miraculous healings overnight or in minutes or whatever, faith healings and as such. And I absolutely, totally understand and believe that does happen. But in my world, it didn't happen. And it's still, and I'm still healing.
Yeah.
I will not say to anybody at all that I am this wonderfully healed person on this planet that is, never going to have another ill moment in my life, because I still deal with issues in my life, health issues in my life now. So I believe that I have probably contracted to come here and experience the duality of healing with illness. And so I do agree that it is very essential for myself to stay very conscious in my purpose work, as we've talked about. And when I am in one of those moments where I can't get out of my chair because I'm so fatigued, then I will ask the angels to, either help me to get out of the chair if I am needing to do something, or can they just bring me a message that
Yeah.
for me will give me some encouragement to just remain in the chair, because that's what I have to do in that moment.
Yeah.
So to not fight it and to not say I need to be in another place than what I'm in. And this is why I think for myself, some of my quandary was when I was studying to be a minister, and so much of science of mind was to use our mind for healing, was like, what was I doing wrong? Where was I going wrong? And I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was my journey to come to this place, to be able to be a conduit for my soul's purpose. And I would not have had the what can I say? Would not have had the want to say the fire or
The drive, maybe?
the drive to
Yeah.
continue. If thanks, if I hadn't have had my illnesses to keep moving forward.
Yeah, you're saying two really important things that I want audience, listeners, viewers to pick up on is that nobody is ever sitting here, at least not on this podcast, saying, hey, we're healed, we're perfect, we're going to tell you how to do it. No, what this is all about is sharing and going, man, I was in a dark place. And this is what I did, and these are some of the tools, or these are my beliefs, or it was faith, or it was purpose work, or it was whatever. But you know what? Community is so important. Having somebody really close to go through part of your journey with you is so important. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to feel like you're getting it right all the time to have an impact, because that is how we learn. And I love what you said, Bren, about when you were studying to be a minister, which also gives you a huge depth of whatever that is that has driven you towards a divinity type incarnation. That's the best way I can put it.
I think what I'll just interject, compassion. I think it's compassion.
And compassion. Yeah. Yeah, but this whole thing about, caring for the world, caring for everybody. I mean, many, many people are wrapped up in basically caring for their children, caring for their families, caring for the next big struggle that they got to deal with. And that's not really caring for it. It's being obsessed with it. So we do need more people caring for humanity as a whole. And it's a super big job. I was going to say earlier that the angels are keeping you pretty busy. They're keeping you pretty busy. And those of us, I also have do angelic work. But I also want to say on that note, because I forgot to say a little bit earlier, but when we're talking about angels, and you're talking about, being a healing practitioner for the angels, channel, I myself am an angel channeler. The thing is that people don't have to be completely versed in the angels to get angelic help. And I did want to just revisit that for a minute, because like I said, I had forgotten to jump on that point. So anybody that poo-poos them, that's fine. This conversation may not be for you, but every reading I did, and I did personal readings for many, many years, 9 years as a matter of fact. And I think 2 people knew about angels when they came to me. And so that was the fun. And that's the fun when you actually work with angels and you get to spread the messages and the empowerment that you can gain from being in that angelic realm. It's a super safe realm. It's an extremely warm and welcoming and embracing realm. And I know that sometimes we have to stretch our mind to believe in things that go beyond the physical, beyond what we can see. But honestly, my experience has been that is entirely where all of my healing has taken place. It's not from the physical. I mean, yes, for me being willing, and to anybody else having to be willing to stay the course, but it's that belief and drive and inspiration and absolute faith that powers that we can't see really, really, really are at work in our life and are a healing force that nothing else can really, go up against. But that's a conversation for another day. I have 2 questions left for you. And because I want to have time to talk about them all, I did just want to ask if, I love what you said about, yes, I know you're a light worker. I'm a light worker. But sometimes people can get, they don't really understand that term. And I see on your website, you're working for people who want to be a lantern of the light. And I just love that lantern of the light term. So to help people understand what you mean by lantern of the light, it doesn't mean that they need to be on a global, stage or anything like, or doing like hours and hours of quotes or writing books or doing a podcast or whatever, whatever. What would you say to those people that are intrigued by this lantern of the light? I want to be a lantern in this dark world. How would you tell them? What would you say to them to sort of just get started?
I would say that the easiest way that anybody can be a lantern of the light is have a smile on their face. So, so
I'm smiling.
you walk down the street and you pass by a total stranger and you exchange smiles. Nothing else, just smiles. And I do this often, often, often when I walk. And that is a bond between two souls who, in my case, many of them, most of them, I have never met again, and just had that instantaneous connection through a smile. Their eyes light up, my eyes light up, their eyes light up,
Yeah.
and that's light.
Yeah.
Where does that light come from? It comes from the divine.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's what lantern of the light means. It means being a lantern, having stewardship of having this light pass through me so that it can radiate itself out into another's passage through their journey of life on that day. I do this in the grocery store. I do this wherever I go. And I have so much fun with it because it's natural for me to do this. And, mostly I will also say hi and then have a big smile and just walk by them and as we're passing. Yeah. So passing ships in the night, but have been lit with a smile and a smile from the divine.
It's really true. I did a short exercise in the first 6 months of my bereavement, and I was in the darkest of dark times, and I challenged myself. I don't even know, probably the angels gave this exercise to me, and I challenged myself. I lived in the country, but whenever I went to the city, which was rare, but when I did, and I passed people, I smiled at them because I was disciplining myself to also be firm in what had been the foundation of my adult life to that point. And I was 48 at that time. And you know what? They radiated a smile back to me. And I still remember that. In my earliest months and years of bereavement, I still can remember at least some of those return smiles in otherwise really scowling faces. Because people, if you really look around you, there's a lot of scowling faces. And it's true, when you smile, most people will appreciate it and smile back, and you develop a connection that's just beautiful for that moment. Okay, so we are winding this down now, and I have 3 questions left for you before we have to come to a close on this particular episode. But one is, I wonder if you could just briefly mention you have 3 key messages for people. And they are to never lose hope, know the power of your thoughts, and be willing to accept where you are today, because it's right where you're supposed to be. And I wondered if you wanted to say something briefly on each of these points as we close out this show.
Okay, I might have to get you to go one by one there. So
yeah,
number 1, never lose hope, is for me kind of my motto, my insignia over my that runs across my ticker tape through my forehead, is because I have had so many times in my life where I have felt real hopelessness. And I understand with the never lose hope is because my angels are always there in all ways. And so I'm just saying again, I tie everything in for myself with the angels, because the angels are the ones who were the ones who helped me when I was in the lowest of lows of my place in life. The second one was
to know the power of our thoughts.
Right. Okay. So that I would say is, for me, understanding that my thoughts are a database and I'm the only one that has access to them. Nobody else has access to what I'm thinking. So it is imperative that whatever thought I'm putting out into the universe, I understand is going to create something. And so that's where I say with accountability is nobody is creating my reality, only me. And so that's about as simple as I can define it for myself, that every thought I think creates something, and that something is my responsibility.
I agree. The last one is to be willing to accept where we are, that in the context that things are happening exactly as they're supposed to be in their right, time and manner.
Right. So in life, I have learned that all I have is this moment. That is why my EP was entitled In This Moment, and my book was entitled In This Moment, Angel Sweet Reflections. I didn't know anything about in this moment when those two things evolved and were born. I certainly do now. And so in this moment is the only moment that I have, that we have. And so for me to understand that everything that is occurring exactly when it should, in exactly the right manner, because I myself believe in absolute divine right timing, and that I have orchestrated this through my thoughts, and just trust that for myself, that everything is unfolding exactly the way it is supposed to in every moment.
So that's beautiful. And for the most part, well, no, I agree with everything. But so what I want to just bring this back to in closing for the audience, this is a grief talk podcast. Everything you want to know about grief and more. And a lot of what we're talking about today is about being going through disability, not giving up hope, finding strength in the disability, finding actually purpose in the disability. So anybody, I'm speaking really in really general terms, that might be going through hard times, financial, physical illness, disability, even loss that is expected, like an aging parent, but you're still really sad about it and stuff like that. I've always sort of found that these concepts, these principles, these spiritual ways of being are easily digestible. And for those of us already on the path and practicing, in my case, for over 4 decades, all makes sense. So I just want to comfort the people that might be watching this or listening to this that have suffered extreme tragedy. The loss of my daughter at age 22 is considered a horrible tragedy and one of the worst things that can happen to anybody. But I know that there's worse tragedies, and I've always honored that, but we don't want to dismiss or undervalue what we've gone through, the pain of it. So I work very hard to help people in a very gentle sort of process, help to take these principles and adapt them to the life that has been shattered or devastated by loss or some adversity that has been really traumatic. So I don't want anybody to think this is easy, quick, or the only solution. It's more like for me anyway, it's a foundation of beliefs that ties me to the understanding that that all of our hardships are lessons, and it's whatever these lessons mean to us, and what we find in these lessons generally can be more expanded and have much more meaning and give us the greatest depth to our physical experience the more we allow our minds and consciousness to evolve. And I don't want to get more into it at this moment, but I know you and I are going to be having some conversations around some of these subjects, because it isn't easy to stay on the path, but I absolutely practice power of thought. Some people might be, again, watching, listening this and going, I don't even understand what power of thought means. So stay tuned, because we're going to be uncovering all of these topics in a much more in-depth level, dedicating episodes to certain topics like this to help people kind of try and get in tune with that power, that personal power that is within themselves. And I know you're excited about some of those conversations too. And but for the moment today, I did just want to introduce you and your work to audience members, people, because you do such wonderful stuff. I'm going to be putting a link to all of your sites, your music, your first book that you've published, your website, all your quotes, your YouTube channel, filled with just wonderful, wonderful content. I think there's something there that can serve just about every niche that someone might be looking for. So is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience, listeners, viewers, before we have to sign this one off?
I just wanted to also add to what you were saying about being, grief stricken from the loss of your daughter. And and I'm very sorry for your loss, but I'm also saying as well that in how I can also tie this into grief talk is losing my health and losing my belief that anything good was ever going to evolve in my life caused me extreme grief.
Yeah.
And there are many, many types of grief.
Yeah.
And so I, for myself, can only speak from my own grief, losing my health, losing finances. There's just so many things that I lost along the way with having absolutely no health. And so in any of the grief-ridden situations, each of us, I think, has been brought to our knees or our backs, and we're laying flat on our backs, and we have to pick ourselves up brick by brick, layer by layer. And for me to do this, I had to have a consciousness that there was something greater than myself that could help me through this process, because I am a human being here and I needed help. And so for me, that was understanding that there was a presence in my life that was bigger than me, that could help me heal. So I just wanted to let people know that if they've, gone through anything in their life that has caused them grief, that you start from an ending point of where you're at. When I say ending, like that's the end. Like the grief, to me, the grief is like, it's zapped everything that could possibly zap out of a system. Your will to live, your joie de vivre, your passion for doing anything in life, having any kind of purpose work. And so for those people who are in any stage of grief over anything, I would say, just if there's some way that you can turn to something that gives you a greater sense of understanding, of compassion, of love, of just that can embrace you and help pick you up, because we need something that is out of ourselves that can help us when we're lying flat on our backs and we can't do it.
Yeah, so beautifully said, and I totally agree. Ultimately, I really believe that we're given what we can handle. I've hated that, but I've also respected that, and that we're all challenged. And so I agree with you 100%. We're all challenged with the things that we have chosen to be challenged with. And I truly respect and understand that we need to draw on those same things that you and I'll explore in a future episode of what it is that helps keep us tied to this commitment to healing. And on that note, I hope you're as excited as I am to have some more in-depth conversations. But this was a truly wonderful, time spent with you to talk about your work and definitely share your wisdom and your inspiration with others. And again, for folks, I'll put the links to all of Brenda Rachel's works below. And I want to really thank you so much for, joining me on my podcast today.
It's been a wonderful, wonderful venture for me to have this conversation. So thanks and angel blessings to you.
Perfect. Angel blessings to you too. And thanks again. Talk soon.